Hi, everybody. It's Tim Constantine from the Washington Times and for America. I'm joined by David Bozell. Hi, David. How are you?
Hey, Tim, how are you?
Good. I don't know if you know this, but in roughly 50 days, there's going to be an election in the United States, which
I have
means
no
in
idea.
roughly 60 days, we'll know who won. They had a debate this past week, and Kamala Harris and Donald Trump both showed up.
Yeah.
I got to talk to you a little bit about
Yeah.
what happened at the debate. I'm watching this thing and I'm thinking, where's Donald Trump?
Yeah.
In my opinion, there was opportunity after opportunity after opportunity to bury Kamala Harris in either vague things she said or completely untrue things she said. And yet, I believe Donald Trump failed virtually every step of the way. He only had two good counter punches in 2 hours. Your thoughts?
Well, cardinal rule of politics, Tim. Let's be glass half full. It's never as good. It's never as good as people think that it is, and it's never as bad as
This
people
is
think
true.
that it is. Um, I think Kamala Harris whiffed on the most important issue of the evening and of the campaign, which is the economy. I have no idea still, a few days later, what an opportunity economy is supposed to mean. This idea that she's pitching a $50,000 first year tax rebate for first year small businesses. I don't know of virtually any first year small business that would qualify for such a thing. So that's just pie in the sky. Um, could Donald Trump have doubled down and pointed that out as a former businessman more acutely? Yes, he could have.
And let
Uh,
me ask you right there, because there
yeah,
was one point, probably two-thirds of the way through the debate, when he said, "Where have you been for 3.5 years?"
yeah, his best
In
line.
my opinion, he should have made that his mantra throughout. Very
Yeah,
first question was about her changing policies. Why didn't you do that 3.5 years ago? They asked her, the second question was about the economy, and she said they asked her, "Are you better off than you were 4 years ago?" Never answered that question. She said, "I have a plan," and then she outlined four very vague things. She clearly doesn't have a plan. She has four talking points. That's it.
right,
But what Donald Trump should have said immediately is, "Where's that been for the last three and a
yeah,
half years?"
right.
He should have answered everything: immigration, economy, world affairs. Where have you been for 3.5 years? And everybody would have remembered it. He said it once. Nobody's talking about it.
Yeah, Tim, I could not agree with you more. That should have been his answer every single time on the economy, on immigration, on issues of crime and safety, on the issue of Israel and Gaza and Hamas. All of these issues could have been basically swatted away, and the country would have basically remembered that yes, she has been in the position of power for 3.5 years, and she's done nothing. That said, the run spot run line was great. That was a terrific line for Donald Trump. Like we said, the where have you been was great. The line where he says, "Excuse me, I'm talking." Do you remember that? That was great. That has had a lot of viral legs. So I think he had the more viral moments. If you didn't happen to tune in, uh,
Sadly, one of those viral moments was talking about pets being eaten as well. You know, and what I'm trying to do is look at this through not my own lens. I'm
yeah,
conservative. I want to
yeah,
see the Republican do well in any of these debates. Whether, when Mitt Romney was debating Obama, I wasn't a huge Mitt Romney fan, but I wanted him to do well against Obama. Same thing here. I'm not a huge Trump fan, but I don't want to see Kamala Harris doing
right,
well against Donald Trump. So I try to look at it through a lens. If I'm a 39-year-old mom who doesn't normally follow politics,
right.
instead of a 50-something-year-old guy that does this for a living, if I'm a 39-year-old mom who doesn't really pay attention, what did I take away from that? And did Kamala Harris's 4-point plan, was that effective to someone who doesn't follow this closely? She's not dissecting it. Mom isn't dissecting this thinking, well, where are the details on that? They're just seeing Kamala smile and look reassuring, and they're seeing an angry Donald Trump. I thought that was the biggest problem of the night, was Trump was leaning on that thing and getting louder and
Yeah,
louder and louder. And I thought, oh my gosh, for that undecided, middle of the road voter, this doesn't help. I agree with you. It didn't. He didn't lose the debate. The Atlantic put out a piece yesterday that said Kamala Harris broke Donald Trump, and I thought, no, she didn't. I think she won the debate. I think she was more effective than he was in the debate, but she didn't break Donald Trump. We saw a candidate broken back in June. That's what it looks like. We didn't see that this week.
Yeah, I love all those headlines that he's toast, that she broke him. I mean, you're talking about a guy who was recently shot in the head. I mean, come on, who could go to any one of, I don't know, a half a dozen 4-star resorts spread out across the world at a moment's notice on a private jet. I don't think that Kamala Harris broke that. Now, let's rip the Band-Aid off of the Springfield, Ohio dog eating situation, because you're right. To the 39-year-old woman who has no idea what he's talking about, he kind of comes off as a crazy person. If I could defend Trump for a second on this, he does have a knack for throwing out the bombastic, throwing out the crazy, and you think, where the hell is he getting this from? And I think he understands, perhaps better than most as a marketer, that day after day, people are going to start to look into what the hell he's talking about. NPR, of all places, did a huge story on the Haitian situation in Springfield, Ohio, a month ago, way back in August. This was on even NPR's radar. Fast forward to the debate. In between, from NPR's story to the debate, is all manner of video on social of regular citizens going to the Springfield Town Hall Council meeting and making these claims. Okay, I don't think there's this grand conspiracy. These are just regular Joes, regular people. I don't think anyone wants to just take the time to go to a town council meeting and claim erroneously that someone's ripping the heads off of the pond ducks. I mean,
and lost in all of this, it's not about a duck or a cat.
Right.
What the deal is Springfield, Ohio is a town of about 60,000 people.
Yeah.
And they have had, because of the Biden-Harris policies, they've had about 20,000. Listen to that. 60,000 people live there.
Yes.
About 20,000 Haitians dropped in their community.
Right.
If you have 20,000 people, roughly 1/3 now of your population, of your original population, that has a completely different culture, it's going to have an impact. This isn't about racism. This isn't about cats. This isn't about dogs. This is about a failed policy from Biden-Harris, and that seems to have been lost.
Yes. Yes. In the debate, in the moment, yes, it was lost. Now, to the people of Springfield, I mean, they're giving him a standing ovation. Yes, somebody is bringing national attention to our story. Obviously the messaging could have been better, right? We're all Springfield, Ohio's, right? If you want to look at it that way, right? Could that message be packaged, or leave it to your vice president, the senator from Ohio, right? That's his story to tell. He knows it better than anyone, and he's been on the trail talking about it for a month now, and he's doing subsequent television talking about it. He has command over that story. Leave it to him. Those would be some options for the campaign.
All right.
Now, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Very quickly here, immediately after this debate, Kamala Harris team came out and said, let's do it again. We want to do another debate. And I understand, the Trump team tried to spin that as though, well, only the loser asked for another debate. But I don't think that's true. I think they did really well. I think they believed they could replicate that. I think back to 1984. Everybody remembers when Mondale ran against Reagan, that Reagan smoked him in the second debate. He made the joke about age. I'm not going to exploit my opponent's youth and inexperience. Everybody remembers that as an iconic debate moment. What very few people remember, there was a debate before that, and Reagan looked terrible.
Yeah.
He did not do well. He actually kept Mondale in the race by doing so poorly in the first debate. So the second debate helped him. Do you believe if there was a second debate, if Trump says, great, let's get it on, that he has the ability to do any better than he did the other night?
Yeah, I do. Because experience and yes, absolutely, I do. And I'm not one for. I think despair is a sin. Okay, so as a Trump supporter, if you're a Trump supporter out there, um, let's just stop whining about what happened and go out and fight and win. I mean, the guy took a bullet to the head and stood up and said, "Let's get this on." And I mean, we want to talk about missed opportunities. I mean, I could not believe that Kamala Harris criticized the rallies.
But it worked. It distracted him from his job. It wasn't about the rallies. It was about throwing Trump off his message, and she was effective.
He could have said, and I hope he has this opportunity. You mean the same rally where a firefighter was killed by a crazy person, probably motivated by her, her
that would have shut it down like that. You're absolutely right.
Yeah. So I would take the opportunity if I'm Donald Trump to do it again. Absolutely. I see if I could demand a more balanced presentation from the moderators. I'd like to get some viewer questions. So yes, I'd try to change the conditions if I could, but yeah, I would take it. And I think she's playing with fire if she does that. She's trying to run
thoughts. One, if he does another debate, clearly he needs me to train him prior to the debate. Just saying. Second thought is, everybody is talking about the gloom and doom. Oh, is she ahead? Oh, look at this poll. Look at that poll.
Yeah.
I will tell you, most of the polls are, to me, it's kind of like spring training in baseball. I love to watch my team and they get out there, but the games don't really count. The games aren't really a measure of what's going on because who's playing and how they're doing it isn't a true measure of what's going to happen during the regular season. Most of the polls out there are a lot like spring training. They don't actually get accurate numbers as far as Democrat, Republican, and independent. They don't do it in a scientific way, so the numbers mean nothing. They are also national polls, and that's not how we decide our election. We do it state by state by state. That said, when you look at the most accurate pollsters, when you look at TIPP polls, or you look at Rasmussen polls, who have amazing track records over several presidential elections, regardless of who was ahead or behind, they are spot on. Both of them show this as roughly a 1 point within the margin of error, a 1 point race. And in both of their cases, they show Trump up by that 1 point.
Right.
But either way, this is still a horse race. I think there's a lot of gloom and doom on the Republican side. Yeah. I think there's a lot of premature victory dancing from the Democrats.
Yep.
Where do we go in these last 50 days?
I would tell our viewership out there a couple of things. One, remember, when Donald Trump knocked Joe Biden out of the race politically with the debate, the polls didn't really change all that much. Right? It's kind of underreported. He got a slight bump, but again, within the margin of error. So even though politically he knocked them out of the race and Biden did so poorly, the polls didn't change much. I don't think the polls are going to change all that much. And any poll that you see out there, if it's in the margin of error, just consider it a dead heat. At the end of the day, this thing is going to get decided by a few 100,000 voters in a few states. We've talked about them: Pennsylvania, Georgia, Michigan, Wisconsin, maybe Arizona and Nevada. Whoever's got the better get out the vote operation for those few 200, 220, 230,000 swing voters in those 4 or 5 states. Whoever convinces that crowd to vote for their candidate will be the next president.
For America, he is David Bozell. I'm Tim Constantine, and for the Washington Times, thanks for joining us.